Hey everyone, Shin here. So, we had a new patch on Tuesday, and with a whole bunch of balance changes, some new toys, comes some new opportunities for warrior builds. So I've been doing a fair number of experiments, some testing, trying out a bunch of the new stuff, a bunch of the new balance for warrior, and I found a berserker build that I really enjoy playing. It's a lot of fun, and best part is it actually seems to work decently well against a lot of the classes and a lot of what they're running right now. We don't have to deal with people running the more bunkerish amulets, specifically Soldier, Settler, Celestial, and Sentinel. So that means the warrior damage that we are able to land actually makes a bit more of a difference, and this build definitely has damage. It's got damage, it's got CC, it's got mobility, it has a whole bunch of things that I always look for when I'm trying to come up with a warrior build, and all the things involved seem to be working pretty well. So I wanted to share this build with you guys. Let's just go with Wildfire, because I don't really have any super fancy names like Hamtastic or anything to throw at it right now. A few things I want to mention before jumping into the build itself. The meta has not yet settled. I have not been able to consistently fight full ranked matches of skilled players, of high tier players with this build because of the fact that we are not in ranked season 2 yet. It's unranked. Everyone is in the same pool. I can't guarantee that the build is going to work as well against highly skilled players as it does with all of the matchups I've run into. I have done 1v1 testing with this build against players that I know are competent and I know are skilled, and it has still fared fairly well, but the meta and rotations and any number of things could throw off this build's potency between now and the end of ranked season 2. This is a fun build, this is an effective build in a majority of the situations I've used it in, but there could be things that absolutely throw a wrench in this build's capabilities and it may not work as well, say, a month from now. But it's still fun, it's still effective. I just want to make sure you guys know that I'm not claiming this to be an amazing build, it's just a fun one that has happened to work really well in a majority of the situations I've tried it in. Alright, so jumping into the build itself, this is a sword, torch, and mace shield build. The sigils for both weapon sets are going to be Sigil of Generosity and Sigil of Intelligence. For the rune, the build uses Rune of the Traveler, and for the amulet, you can use either Mercenary's Amulet or Carrion Amulet. If for whatever reason ArenaNet decides to remove Mercenary's Amulet, you can still use Carrion. I've tested both extensively. They both are equally as effective with this build, so feel free to use whichever one you want. For the utilities, this build uses Mending, Outrage, Endure Pain, Berserker Stance, and Headbutt. And for the traits, this build uses Strength, Defense, and Berserker, with Restorative Strength, Body Blow, and Distracting Strikes up in Strength, Shieldmaster, Defy Pain, and Rousing Resilience in Defense, and Savage Instinct, Heat the Soul, and King of Fires in Berserker. Alright, now for the gameplay. This is where I'll make sense of things like Mending, of Traveler Rune, of the fact that I'm using King of Fires with an amulet that has no crit, etc., etc. You can classify this build as a heavily anti-condition brawling build. This is a build that you want to be jumping into team fights as a +1 with and focusing down a target. This is a build that you can go 1v1 a fair number of opposing classes and builds with on a point to decap it, to cap it, to neutralize it. It's a fighting build. It's a build that is designed to last in short to mid-duration fights before either influencing that fight enough to where you can leave it successful or to get out of the fight if you need to retreat and move to another fight or another location within a match. A majority of the damage from this build is going to come from the conditions that you apply with your interrupts and your torch and your sword. However, that does have a respectable amount of power damage through mace auto attacks, through Shield Bash, through Blaze Breaker and Final Thrust, through Headbutt, through Skull Grinder. There are a number of tools that will do respectable power damage while also applying a lot of conditions as well. In addition, the build has further pressure through smart use of the new King of Fires mechanic, wherein you are able to detonate any fire shield on you for another stack of 3 burns on all targets within 240 radius around you. Fire shields that can be detonated can be from any source. They can be from the crit proc on the King of Fires trait itself. They can be from comboing Flames of War and Savage Leap. They can be from a nearby Elementalist giving you a fire shield through the Feel the Burn shout. Any fire shield is ammo for detonation on any of your Berserker skills, and that means any Torch skill, Berserk itself, any of the Primal Burst skills, Outrage, or Headbutt. They can all be used to detonate fire shields, and smart use and smart timing of detonation will allow you to put further pressure on your targets. One thing you might be wondering is, why am I talking about the on-crit fire shield that you get from the King of Fires trait when I'm running an amulet with no precision? That's where the Sigils of Intelligence come in on the weapons. You are going to get a guaranteed fire shield every 15 seconds because you are going to have these Sigils of Intelligence giving you guaranteed crits whenever you swap between your two weapon sets. For the defensive aspects of this build has a lot of anti-condition capability as well as a lot of self-healing capability. For conditions, this build has 4 ways to manage them: 3 clears and 1 prevention. For clearing them, you have access to 3 short cooldown skills that will all remove at least 2 conditions on you at the time. Flames of War, the torch number 5, is going to clear 2 whenever you use it. Going Berserk with Savage Instinct will remove 2 more conditions, and Mending itself will clear 3 conditions. In addition to those 3 clears, you also have Berserker Stance on a 60-second cooldown that is going to give you immediate reprieve from any conditions, no matter how many or how severe, on you at the time. Yes, the resistance from Berserker Stance can be corrupted, however, it's going to refresh 3 seconds after being applied. So if you are able to, say, get a Necromancer to corrupt your resistance once on Berserker Stance, it's going to refresh, and then in the meantime, you can clear the conditions that were corrupted onto you with your other skills. And then finally, you're also going to have your Generosity procs from the sigils on either of your weapon sets. No matter what weapon set you're on, you will guaranteed remove 1 condition from yourself and add 1 to whomever you're fighting. In addition to all of that anti-condition capability, this build also has a lot of ways to mitigate and recuperate burst damage. For mitigating burst damage, you have a lot of outgoing CC through things like Skullcrack, Headbutt, Skull Grinder, Shield Bash, Pommel Bash, a whole bunch of ways to keep your opponent from doing anything to you. This is also really useful in a team fight to keep opponents CC'd. You also have the blocks on the Mace and Shield. These are going to be nice for might stacking. They're also going to be nice for reflecting projectiles at range. And if you need it, you also have Endure Pain as a backup, as well as Defy Pain should you get very low in a fight. And then for recuperating damage, not only do you have Mending, but you also have Rousing Resilience. Rousing Resilience is going to give you roughly 2,500 healing every time you break a stun, and this build has 4 stun breaks, 3 of which are on short cooldowns. You've got Outrage, Headbutt, and Berserk mode, thanks to Savage Instinct. Those are all your short cooldown stun breaks, and you'll be able to use those every time you're CC'd. This build has no stability, which means you will be able to take advantage of all the CC people throw at you. And should you find yourself in need of it, you can also use Endure Pain as a stun break for further healing. And then anytime you break a stun, you're also going to get, in addition to the heal, you'll get 1,000 toughness, which will further mitigate damage incoming from burst damage strikes. For those of you wondering about Rune of the Traveler, what that has to do with anything, that's primarily there to replace Warrior Sprint that you would otherwise have in Discipline, but it also does benefit the build with increased boon duration for your might stacks, and increased condition duration for all of your outgoing conditions. Alright, and that is it for the Wildfire build. I guess we'll just go with Wildfire, because, again, I don't have any fancy names for it, but I don't know, it sounds cool, whatever. Hopefully you guys enjoy messing around with this build. If anything, it might give you some ideas for messing around with Berserker builds. It's not super crazy powerful in all situations, but it's definitely a lot of fun, and I've definitely had a lot of success trying it out in different situations. Yes, the meta hasn't solidified yet. There could be any number of things that could throw a wrench in this build's capabilities, but it's still fun. It's still useful in a match. I've had a ton of fun with it. It has a lot of nice, solid aspects to it, a lot of self-synergy, and I've used it against competent players in 1v1s and in unranked matches, even though I've also run into a lot of bad players. One thing's for sure, this build is very good for punishing bad players if you use it correctly, so if anything, take advantage of that. And with that, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the build if you decide to try it out. And I will see you in the next video or around the stream. Take care, everyone.